can line up. And remember, do not stray from the line and do not touch the art.
Really happy about this. So where are we lining up?
You will be watched. Just at the edge here would be great.
It seems fuzzy. Oh no, it's fuzzy. And it's nice.
Yeah, that's the one. We'll work that out in a second. We'll work that out in a second. So you can do some. Don't worry about it, we'll sort it out afterwards. Okay, close. Okay, welcome. Remember, follow the lines. Yep.
He's asking me to locate it.
You're being filmed. Oh no! I wish I hadn't told her that. That would have
I did. I did. Yeah. I don't think it's controversial.
This is an exploration into the transformation of architecture into an interactive space that engages all the senses.
We also wanted to address the issue within the North Wall and non-static design, which is very sterile and restricted. We tried to highlight that through the live art performance.
Our installation is a process, which ended up with a live wall.
started off with a review of the existing building with understanding function, space and materiality. Then we formed a response to the intent of the architecture, sterility.
We then formed an approach which was unveiling the traditional approach to gallery design. We wanted to verge away from the sterile, restricted ideology and come up with an interactive and responsive environment. As you walk around the space, it's divided up into our process. So it begins with our response to the building here, goes on to our reaction, our initial ideas, then to our idea of unveiling or breaking down the walls, and then to our final installation, which is here with the building here. And here's a section 1-to-1 of the wall, which could touch you.
So essentially what's going on is we analyse the original building, and essentially we believe that the architect is making his work, his walls, the art, rather than allowing the space to be flexible and used by the artists themselves. It's a very austere environment, a very sterile environment, hence the seats. What we want to do is we want to break that down and try and find a way to encourage people into the building in a creative way, an interactive way, that engages all of it, not just the visual. So we have the wall of hands, the living wall. What happens is people walk past the building now, we've broken down the wall, and changes of air pressure will be sensed, and the hand will lift up, revealing the views inside, and also allowing you to slip inside the building. If you come very well, it's just 1 minute. The TV doesn't seem to be working at the moment, so is anyone from the last group here just to help get it back to where it was, because we'd like to show the video, if that's okay.
Anyone good at TVs last week?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be clever.
No, it was working without the laptop, because there's a map behind it.
Oh.
Ah, okay. So, should we use your laptop? Yeah, that's okay.
You can always just watch it on the laptop.
Yeah.
Let's watch on that.
Saves you copying it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's online at the moment, so.
Yeah, just stand there like sunrise things. You have a Facebook page. Send me these links from both of us.
Oh, yes, you can. I linked you all, I tagged you all in the video. And just next one. And do you have sound? Sorry about this, we were hoping the TV could work, but yeah.
Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Great. Okay, should we sit down now?
Thank you.
Yeah. How long have you been wearing those suits? Yeah, like half an hour. Okay, well, at least they're fresh on today. Okay. Wow. I haven't had a chance to read my literature yet. I'll have a couple of notes
These are actually based on the booklets given out at the North Wall itself. So the booklets advertising all the shows upcoming.
Yeah.
So
Redesigned it.
Very subversive and clever.
And what about these Baroque frames, picture frames? I'm very curious about them.
yeah, I mean, what we're trying to show is, I mean, the fact that the walls themselves, the architect's design, have become the art in this space. It's a very austere space. You know, sometimes that, you know, especially with stairs, where you have the timber meeting the concrete in that kind of zigzag pattern, it's got to the point where you don't see the art, you see the architecture, and that's really the wrong. We feel it's the wrong way round. We feel that Haworth Tompkins have kind of put their architecture above the space. It's a very inflexible space, a very small space, and it's one where you can see a lot of material texture joining. And I think that shouldn't be the way in an art gallery. It should be a blank canvas in which the artist can be free and do whatever they want and recreate the space. It's not a very interactive art gallery, it's a very conservative art gallery. And so the Baroque paintings are kind of a parody and mock of that. That's why we have the frames as we do.
So that's kind of like a representation of a quite traditional,
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is why the drawings inside the Baroque frames are the, you know, the very traditional ones, whereas obviously, you know, we've got some more simple frames, you know, for our more conceptual and modern designs.
I really like the approach that the architects have taken the art, but my question would be, how does that fit with your proposition? If you're proposing, and it's got to be a kinetic installation,
Yeah.
if you're proposing an architectural one, if you're proposing that architecture should be overshadowing the art, what's your position with the actual?
It's a way of inviting you in and breaking down the boundary between kind of the architecture and the art. It's merging them and encouraging you to touch everything and to experience, rather than in the gallery at the moment to do not touch.
So through the architecture, we're expressing the art, because traditionally it's thought that by making the architecture like subtle, you're kind of bringing out the art, but we're showing by bringing out the architecture, you're promoting the art.
Is that art? Is that art? You know? I really like your starting point, but
I see your point, I do, yeah. Well, it was more like we created this sort of like pod or that kind of starts on the outside and goes inside. So it leads you from the external kind of pathway into the building, rather than at the moment it's very like flat and you're not invited in, it's glass materials. This is like a textured wall that you can kind of go into. You get peaks as the wind goes, you get visions in. It really encourages you to go into the gallery and be in there and be, yeah. So it's kind of like a pod that isn't like the whole building, it's just inviting you into, yeah.
I just wondered, if it's not a whole building, how does that change kind of your comment in a way? Because you're kind of making this comment.
It's the start, I think, of the process. We deliberately put Howard Walking from the Fountainhead because in the film he builds his tower, and then the client afterwards puts a little, you know, extension on. He doesn't like that they've destroyed his art, and that's what we're doing. And in the first step, you know, changing this art space, making it flexible. This is the first of many interventions. Breaking down the wall, and we're showing that this space can be changed to meet the individual art exhibitions that are going on inside it. So that's kind of it's the principle of what we're doing in breaking down the wall. I mean, it's a symbolic phrase as well, breaking down the wall. So that's why we deliberately focused on the external wall itself.
Sure, but I think that's a strong gesture, kind of making a wall for a gallery that's not useful because it's moving, it's rather like a window for viewing. So I just thought, why limiting to just exterior and just, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've watched The Blob, which is a fantastic. No, it's true, I love that film. It's like 1970s, lots of screaming blobs, you know, running out buildings with a screen slide, engulfs everything and eats people. And I was thinking about a lot of that with all the chemical suits and the kind of photo gloves, which I think that one of the hospitals. But anyway, I think, you know, at the moment it just looks like a kind of almost sculptural component that sits outside the building. And I don't know why, if you're really subverting the gallery, it can't become this kind of like, you know, something that's literally eating away and completely taking over the role of the structure.
Suggestion to in the animation.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting. Like, the animation really gives a feel, all of it actually, I mean, it gives a real sense of what you're proposing, it's really rich and there's kind of loads to look at.
And to give it some material complexity, at the moment you've got, you know, the gloves, if you like, I'm not sure they have the most sophisticated name, but pretty much name as an architectural component. But at the moment it's dealing with that, you've floated them and you're blowing them. But if you melt them, what happens? If you squash them down and put them in a gable, what happens? Could you stretch them into a tensile structure if you sewed them all together? So I think that you could say this is the materiality, but how could we mess it up? How many other ways could it be subverted and visualised within the scheme? So there's a broader palette for you.
Difficult in a way, but in a good way.
Yeah.
But you could kind of push that a little bit more.
The thing that you've been exceptional at, like truly exceptional, I have to say this, is the narrative stuff that's been brilliant. You've thought it through on so many levels. And it's not just whether the story's any more convincing than anyone else's, it's the fact that the amount of detail and effort you've put into telling it, the amount of thought that's gone into how do we visually represent the story. For some people it's been a case of here's the drawings and then they're talking about, describing, whereas with you, it was very much about the visual telling of a story, which is very, very clever. So that's to be acknowledged. But I think the material outcomes, you know, I think stick with the palette. In the 5 days you've got, I wouldn't want to say go away and start designing a structured palette, wobbly gloves on. It's more just like what else could you do with this particular component?
Yeah, like
you know, that wonderful book, 101 Uses for Dead Cats. It's true, in a funny way, there's so much you can do with glove, right? You can pour concrete into it, cast concrete things that look like hands, and then stack them up. You know?
I like it. That's really nice. I'm excited now.
Whatever you like, I think really, and that could be quite fun. You could puncture them so that you walk under it and you get rained on. So, you know, I mean, there's so many, and I just think stay with that because that's lovely and I like it. And the boiler suit thing is scary but brilliant. You know, and again, all of this stuff, you have to make sure you document this and you integrate it into your final submission. So none of this narrative and even the performative bit. Are you feeling it?
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Because I think put that in there. There's no way I'm going to sit here and talk about it, but I just take a slice of this and put it into a final. So I think it's quite important how people react to things.
I think, yeah, if you engage as well with the whole building, as you were saying, and try to see how you can deconstruct the building and its elements. You're talking about the stairs, that they have very sort of specific meaning to themselves. So how can you reinterpret those in terms of an intervention with deconstructing the wall to go through it? What is a stair? How can you reuse these elements that you're proposing here to do that? And I think if you engage with these elements of the building, you can maybe go into, as you were saying, the sensory experience. Because what I was thinking, I mean, I saw an orange, I want to smell it, I want to taste it.
Yes,
And I think that if you really want to push it, then you should go further.
Yeah.
Well, the artifacts are amazing as well. The books with the things cut out, the apple, like all the pictures.
What about the toaster? We saw that.
I didn't want to turn that on. I mean, you know, obviously, there's a bit of a wordplay going on there, which made me laugh.
Yeah.
But yes, apart from that. Yeah, don't throw any of the stuff away. If you want a story from my office, please do, because I love having really messed up stuff in offices. Just freaks out. You know, what else to say about this?
I think I would. That would be my key thing, is to address that possible contradiction between artists being artists, which is a really strong starting point.
Yeah.
True. I mean, artists being artists, and then how you respond to that with your art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a way through that.
Yeah.
But I think just articulate that in your piece.
Definitely.
Yeah, think about the control that as an architect you try to somehow have in terms of space, and an artist being more evocateur or an architect becoming an artist in this certain way of challenging space, challenging the architectural components you can work with. What is the difference between an artist and an architect?
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you can reflect on when you do your essays, you see, taking it from different angles, because if you want a thematic, that addresses the critiques. That's been our critique, hasn't it, really? All of us have questioned you about what you're really trying to say about architect and artist relationship. But you could really do that within your essays. Quite an interesting position to take. And there's been a lot written about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there is actually a first year lecture. What is it? I can't remember. Ricardo. Yeah, you know Ricardo, right?
So the name sounds familiar, but no,
He
sorry.
teaches like interiors.
Oh, yeah, he did a lecture, didn't he?
He does lecture on art and architecture. You could always go and like ask him. I would email him and say, can we have a copy of that PDF?
Yeah.
Or just to get a reading list of him, which you've got 5 days. And
Yeah.
most essays get 24 hours with a bank details on the So then you just drop him an email and say, can you at least send a reading list for that lecture? So
Yeah.
the first is for me and one of my first years.
Nice.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Get out of this now.
Yeah, the voices on.
That was nice.
Okay, remembering. Yeah, we've done the